this video, I want to tell you all about the new greenhouse that we bought. The company is called Outsunny. That's who makes this greenhouse. I'm sitting inside of it right now. I ended up buying this greenhouse from a company called shop.ca, and they are a website, Canadian website, so if you do live in Canada, you may know of them. They have a couple different greenhouses that you can buy. I don't believe they have this one for sale anymore, but they have other Outsunny greenhouses if you are interested in buying them. We ended up buying one that is 11.5 feet long by 10 feet wide. So pretty big. I know the standard size of greenhouses that you can buy are typically like the small standard size is about 6 feet wide by 8 feet long. And that's originally the size that I was going to get. And when we got this one, we put it up and I thought, oh my gosh, this thing is enormous. But now that I'm in here, I am so happy that I ended up getting the bigger size. So I guess the number one thing that I would say to you is if you have the room in your yard and your spouse or significant other is okay with having a greenhouse in the yard, I say get a bigger one. I've only had it for about a month and a half now. It's the middle of November right now. And so far so good. I'll actually show you the structure of the greenhouse, and I didn't get a video of us putting it up, but I'll show you some of the tricks, I guess, or tips if you are going to buy an Outsunny greenhouse, because they missed, I think, a critical piece in the instructions. But yeah, it's been great. We've had freezing weather, below freezing weather for multiple days, and it's been great in here right now. It's really nice. There's no way I'd be able to sit and do this video outside the greenhouse right now. It would be way too cold. If you're not sure whether or not a greenhouse is a good idea and you love to garden, I can tell you, if you have the space, I would venture out into a greenhouse. That's just my opinion. I'll tell you maybe a better perspective as the winter progresses, and then of course into the spring once we've had a full winter. We bought the greenhouse in the beginning of October. Took just a few days to ship, which was really nice. Wasn't exceptionally heavy, not really that hard to put together. It's essentially just metal rods held together with screws and a piece of plastic stuck over the top. So yes, you could definitely, if you're handy and you know your way around a hardware store, you could probably just build one of these yourself. But I decided to go with one that was already put together for me. It was a kit, so that I didn't have to worry about trying to figure out how to get this thing together, making sure that it was structurally sound and it wasn't going to blow away and it wasn't going to collapse on me. So I'm definitely really happy with the greenhouse. The other thing I like about this greenhouse are that there are windows. One of the things that when I was learning about reading up on greenhouses is they were saying that you need to vent your greenhouse on warmer days. So if it's a really sunny day and it's not, even in the middle of winter, but especially in the fall and in the spring when it's not freezing cold, it's just too cold, it's just a little bit too cold, you need to be able to vent your greenhouse so that there's air circulation in here and that you don't cook your crops. I mean, I can't say from experience that I've seen crops being cooked because this is my first time ever owning a greenhouse, but I tried to do a lot of reading up ahead of time, and that's the one thing that I did make sure that I could find in this style of greenhouse. And if you do your own hoop house with your own plastic that you buy from the hardware store, I don't know how you're supposed to vent them. I'm sure people, you can probably just open the door, but my only worry with that was I don't want to allow animals to get in here. So the beauty of these windows on this particular style is that there are 6 windows, 3 on each side, and you open them from the outside. So on the windows there's actually a mesh netting, and that's on the interior, and then on the outside there's a piece of plastic secured with Velcro and 2 strings. So all you do is you really just roll up the greenhouse, or you really just roll up the window, tie the string in a knot. I would say probably in a double knot or in a bow. If you do a double knot, you just have to consider that it's going to be a little bit harder to unscrew. So if you're absolutely freezing your butt off and you run out here and you have to close the window, just know that if you do a double knot, it's going to take a little bit longer. So you might be cursing your double knot at that point. So I try to do it in a bow. They're not exceptionally long strings, but I can usually get a bow out of it. And that's it. So what I did so far when it was before it got to freezing temperatures was I just kept one window open on either side, and that seemed to allow enough air circulation in here. It was definitely warmer inside the greenhouse, but it wasn't scorching hot in here. And from what I've read, the greenhouse can get really hot when it's warm outside, and especially when it's sunny. So that's the one thing that I definitely love about this particular style of greenhouse. So if you are looking into buying one of these more pliable plastic greenhouses, I would definitely consider getting one with windows if you can find it. If you don't have windows, my guess is that you would have to open up the door. So really all I'm trying to do is just show you how it looks. I've never done this before right now, but I just want to show you the size of what this, I don't know if you can see. I'll move out of the way. But there are strings up here. So you can see kind of in perspective with me inside the frame, just how wide this door is. I've never ever once opened the door like this. I've only ever opened this one zipper and just shimmied my way in. It's really not difficult. Yeah, here's the size of the greenhouse from that perspective. And I can already see, I've been sitting in that greenhouse for a while now, and I'm totally fine right now. I've been out here for, I don't know, 2 minutes, and my hands are freezing cold. So that's how much warmer it is inside that greenhouse. And this is why you don't do double knots. Because when you're frozen, the last thing you want to be doing is undoing a double knot. There we go. On the front, because because the flap here is on the outside, I put pots down. So when I get out of the greenhouse, I just take whatever pot I have sitting outside and I just put it over top of the flap there like that. And that seems to keep anything from getting in or out. The number one thing that I would say that I learned from the construction of the greenhouse, the instructions that come with it are not very clear. It's kind of like the IKEA instructions where it's just a piece of paper with images, which on one hand is nice because you don't have to try to understand what they're writing and what they're trying to tell you with their description. The images are oftentimes easier, but there were really only, I don't know, 6 images or something like that to put together the whole greenhouse. So it wasn't very clear on what to do first. But I would say the number one thing that I believe was missing from the instructions was when you're putting up the base. The base has a long piece at the bottom, three rods that stick together at the bottom, 4 that hook up vertically, 3 horizontally, 3 on the top, and then 2 on the edges that are on a diagonal. One thing that we messed up on when we were putting it together was when we were putting in the vertical rods that hooked up to the bottom base. They have different ends. On one end of it, it's slightly more narrow. So I think the one thing that you have to make sure that you do, which we messed up on numerous times in this greenhouse because there was no instructions and we didn't realize until we got to the next step that we had done something wrong. So here's what I was talking about with this rod here. So it does connect down to the base, you can see there. The base is buried underneath the ground right now. But what you'll notice here, I don't know if you can see it that well on camera, but there is a little bit of an indentation here, and it gets narrower up at the top here. So what you want to make sure that you're doing when you put together this greenhouse is make sure that this narrow bit is pointed up away from the ground, because that way it will slot right into this curved piece up here. If you put it upside down, you're going to have to take it apart, unscrew it, and put it back in right side up. One thing that you do have to consider with this greenhouse, and I would imagine with any greenhouse, unless they come with something really strong to secure it to the ground, but you're going to have to make sure that this greenhouse doesn't blow away. When I was reading the reviews on this and any hoop house type greenhouse, people were saying that their greenhouse was blowing away. So if you had an allotment, people were saying their greenhouse was blowing their greenhouse blew away 3 allotments over, or their greenhouse blew into their neighbor's yard. And I definitely didn't want to have anything to do with that. I mean, I know my neighbors, but I don't think they want to have a greenhouse in their yard. So I wanted to make sure that we secured this greenhouse down really well. The frame itself, we had put the frame up itself before we put up the cover, and it didn't look like we had any issues of securing the frame down. All I did was I put down, I think, 2 bags of dirt. On this particular greenhouse, there is a base around the entire perimeter. So it's not just these sticks you see going up the side and up the top. There's actually a base as well. So there's in my opinion, a pro and a con to that. The pro is that you can hold the base down with something. So in my case, what I did was I just took 2 bags of, I think maybe 3 bags of dirt. I put 1 on the side and 1 on the back. I really actually think I just did 2. And that was enough to not have the frame itself, not the cover, the frame itself not blow away. But I knew that when we put up the cover, that would be a different story, because it kind of acts like a balloon where the air will come and it will just lift it right up. That's my understanding, at least. So that's the pro. The con is that what I learned from people doing their own hoop houses was they took some rebar, they stuck it into the ground, a couple feet into the ground, and then they put the frame of their hoop house over top of it. So they just slotted it on, and that secured the base of the greenhouse. So I thought, oh, that's a great idea. Let me see if I can do it. No, I can't, because there are screws running through all of the rods on this greenhouse. So there's never an opening that's wide enough for me to put any sort of rebar or anything like that. So if that was what you were thinking you were going to do with this greenhouse, won't work. So we had to try to be a little bit more creative. So what we ended up doing was we actually dug a trench all along the perimeter of this greenhouse, and we did that for 2 reasons. One, we felt like it would be more secure if it was dug deeper into the ground, because what we could do is we could put soil on top, and that would be an extra layer of protection. The more important reason that we did it was so that we could actually put cement blocks on top of the ground where the base was sitting. So what we ended up doing was, so like I said, we dug a trench, then we put the greenhouse inside the trench, took the dirt back, covered it back up, and now it was flush with the ground. So now when we put something on the ground, it would lay flat. So down here, I'll show you exactly what I was saying, how we trenched the greenhouse down. So, I guess I'll have to move this cement block out of the way, and you might be able to see how heavy it is. Like, I can't lift it. I'll just shimmy it over. I just need to. So we dug the trench, we slotted the bar inside the trench, we put dirt back on top of it, then put this plastic on top of that, and then the cement on top of the plastic. So this plastic is normally, I believe, intended to be outside of, like, if we folded it in, I believe it's intended to fold out so that you can put dirt and snow on the exterior of the greenhouse. I preferred it to be on the inside so that we could use these cement blocks and it would all be inside the greenhouse. We ended up buying our cement blocks from Lowe's, I believe. They were like $3.15, I think, so not very expensive. We ended up buying 7, so we actually have one on each corner, so that's 4, and then one on each side and one on the back. I didn't put one on the front because the front is primarily a door. So if you want to use the entire width of the door, then you wouldn't use the cement block. And I have things sitting on the outside. So far, these bricks or these cement blocks that we put on each of the corners has been a great success. We've had days where the wind has been over 50 kilometers an hour, gusting even higher than that. But it's been great. It was actually right after we put the greenhouse up, I was in the house and I heard that we were going to have really high gusting winds that day. So I was looking outside at the greenhouse looking, oh, is it still standing? And it was fine. I mean, you could see the wind howling. Leaves were blowing across the yard. We hadn't finished cleaning up for the fall, so we had stuff kind of scattered over and they were blowing all around the yard. And this greenhouse was sitting here perfect. You could tell it was moving around. I don't know if you can see in the video behind me, but you can see that the greenhouse is definitely kind of shaking. Not the greenhouse itself, but the plastic. And it was fine. It didn't move even a bit. So I think that they're doing a really great job at securing this greenhouse. So if you do have your own greenhouse, even if you're not going to buy one, I think that that's definitely something that you should consider is buying these cement blocks. I mean, for $3 and a bit each, it's not a bad investment. One thing that I have to say about this greenhouse that I was not aware of, and I don't even really understand it now, so if you do, you can tell me, is there appears to be some like condensation, or there's water on the inside of this greenhouse, and I don't know if it's coming from the plants and up, but when you're sitting in here, you'll notice that you sometimes get rained on. And I don't know if you'll be able to see in the camera, but there are times as I'm talking that you can see drips. Almost just like little raindrops, but isolated. There you go. There you go, I got a little wet on that one. So, I mean, I guess if it's a really aggressive wind, like just a sudden gust of wind, if it's just a soft breeze, it's not gonna do it. But a wind like that, yeah, it will. So that's an interesting tidbit inside the greenhouse. I don't know if you can tell, but I mean, you can see the drops on my pants and you might be able to see it. Those were some more substantial drops in here. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's doing that. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll definitely try to do more of these videos of the greenhouse, of gardening in general, using the crops that I grow in my garden. I love to cook, so I'll definitely have cooking episodes as well where I try to use whole foods and make delicious meals out of it. If you have any questions, please enter them in the comments below. I'll try to answer whatever I can. If you have any suggestions or advice to me for my own greenhouse, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll be back soon and give you guys more updates about this greenhouse. Bye.